Good morning to you all. And today we'll be solving up the problems of NCERT, chapter number 1, exercise problems. And this will be our problem solving session 2. So please take a notebook along with a pen so that you will be solving the questions along with the slides. Let's begin today's class. Question number 1.1. It says that what is the force between two small charge spheres having charges of 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulomb and 3 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulomb when they are placed 30 centimeter apart in air. So we all know that it can be solved with the help of Coulomb's law. So by Coulomb's law, first just write down the things that are given to you. So make it in tabular form, that the things that are given to us. So we are being given with the charge on the first sphere, that is Q1 is equal to 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulomb. The charge on the second sphere is given to us as Q2 is equal to 3 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulomb. And the distance between those spheres is 30 centimeter. And when you will be converting it to meters, it has to be 0.3 meters. So it comes out like this. We know that what is the force between the two charges when they are placed at a distance r apart, that is given by the Coulomb's law, F equal to K Q1 Q2 upon R square. So in place of K, we can be writing the value of the constant, and the value of constant K for air is 9 into 10 to the power 9. So K can be replaced by 9 into 10 to the power 9. Q1 value I have already written, 2 into 10 to the power minus 7. Q2 value is 3 into 10 to the power minus 7. And in place of R, you can be writing 0.3. So R square is 0.3 square. The equation becomes like this. F is equal to 9 into 10 to the power 9 into 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 multiplied by 3 into 10 to the power minus 7. And in place of R, we have written the distance, that is 0.3 meters. All right. And it has come out to be 6 into 10 to the power minus 3 Newton, or you can also be writing it as 6 millinewton. This is a very simple problem. I have just taken it because you people will be first solving the simpler ones and then I'll be taking you towards the complex one. That's why I've taken this one. So very simple problem. You can easily be solving it out. Many of you have solved it already. So let's, without wasting any time, move towards the second problem. In question number 2, they say this thing: the electrostatic force on a small sphere of charge 0.4 microcoulomb due to another small sphere of charge minus 0.8 microcoulomb in air is 0.2 Newton. What is the distance between the two spheres? So in this case, we need to find R. We are being given with, okay, Diksha has raised hand. So let me answer Diksha's question first and then I'll be going ahead. In this question, we are given with the force and we need to find the distance between the spheres. The R needed to be found out. So the Coulomb's law, we know this thing, F equal to K Q1 Q2 upon R square. And this implies R square is equal to K Q1 Q2 upon F. All right. Okay, Diksha wants this thing that problem 1 needed to be explained again. So I'm just explaining it again. Going back to problem number 1. See this thing, two charges, they are separated by 30 centimeter apart. We know by Coulomb's law, F equal to K Q1 Q2 upon R square. In place of K, it is constant. The value of K is 9 into 10 to the power 9 for the charges placed in vacuum. When the charges are placed in air or vacuum, the value of K is 9 into 10 to the power 9. We know this. So in place of K, I have written 9 into 10 to the power 9. Q1 is your first charge, that is 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulomb. And Q2 is your second charge, that is 3 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulomb. In place of R, I have written 0.3. Square of 0.3 is 0.3 square. When you solve it out, you will be getting the force between the charges as 6 into 10 to the power minus 3 Newton. I hope it is clear, Diksha. So let me move towards the second one. And don't worry about if you people are not able to write it up. I'll be sharing up the PDF with you, so you can easily be writing it over there. Just make some notes and write it in short so that you will be having some idea that how the questions are being solved. Moving towards the next one. In this question, they want this thing that we need to calculate the distance between the charges, and the distance between the charges, the square of the distance can be calculated from this formula. When you cross multiply it, r goes over here and f comes in the denominator. R square comes out to be k q1 q2 upon f. The value of k, you know, 9 into 10 to the power 9. The value of q1, it is 0.4 microcoulomb. So it is 0.4 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 6. And q2 is 0.8 microcoulomb, that is 0.8 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 6. We need not be taking this sign because this sign only suggests us the direction of the force. We only be taking magnitude in this formula. That's why I have dropped it out, this minus sign. The equation becomes like this. In place of k, use the value of k, 9 into 10 to the power 9. In place of q1, use the value of first charge, that is 0.4 into 10 to the power minus 6. In case of q2, use the value of second charge, that is 0.8 into 10 to the power minus 6 coulomb. And in place of f, it is given 0.2 Newton. So you can write in place of f 0.2 Newton. Solve it out. You will be getting 144 into 10 to the power minus 4. And this is the value of r square. It is not the value of r, but it is the value of r square. So in order to calculate r, what you need to do is, you need to take the root of it. So take the root of this. R is equal to root of 144 into 10 to the power minus 4. Root of 144 is 12. And root of 10 to the power minus 4 is 10 to the power minus 2. So it becomes 12 into 10 to the power minus 2 meter. Or in other terms, you can easily be writing it as 0.12 meter. So this is the distance between the two charges, which are of this much magnitude, and they are having a force between them is 0.2 Newton. The distance between them comes out to be 0.12 meter. Now, the second part of the problem, what is the force on the second sphere due to the first one? So we know this thing, that this Coulomb's law, it obeys the Newton's third law of motion. That is, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So the force on one charge due to the another charge is equal and opposite to the force on the second charge due to the first charge. So the force remains same, that is 0.2 Newton. Both the spheres, they attract each other with the same force. Therefore, the force on the second sphere due to the first one is 0.2 Newton. Force on one due to the another charge is equal to the force on the second charge due to the first one. All right. So the force remains same as 0.2 Newton. I hope it is clear. So let me move towards the next problem. And still, if you are facing some problem in between, please raise hand, then I'll be solving it out at that moment only. All right. So in question number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you have already done, and I do believe that you will be able to do it up. Some of them are numerical or some conceptual problems that the answer and solution to those problems have already been discussed in class as well as given in the notes. Still, if you are facing some problem, just mail me that, sir, we want this question to be solved by you, and I'll be giving you the solution to that. And I felt this thing that this is something that you people need to, I should be discussing with you people. So I've just skipped some questions in between. And still, if you are facing some problems in those questions, please mail me. I'll be solving it for you. In question number 1.8, what it says is that there are 2 point charges. One is QA, the magnitude 3 microcoulomb, and other one is QB with the magnitude minus 3 microcoulomb. And they are located 20 centimeter apart in vacuum. In the first part, the question is asking that what is the electric field at a point O, which is the midpoint of the line joining AB. And in the second part, it is saying that if a negative test charge of magnitude 1.5 into 10 to the power minus 9 coulomb is placed at this point, means it is placed at point O, what is the force experienced by the test charge? So let's do the solution. First, I am solving part A. We need to find the electric field at point O. So the situation can be represented by this figure. You can see that there are 2 charges A and B, and they are separated by distance AB. O is the midpoint of these 2 charges, and the magnitude of A is plus 3 microcoulomb, and magnitude of B is minus 3 microcoulomb. All right. The distance between A and B is 20 centimeter. So OA is equal to OB because O is the midpoint. So this distance OA has to be equal to OB and it is equal to 10 centimeter. See this thing? Distance between the two charges AB equal to 2 centimeter. Since O is the midpoint, then AO has to be equal to OB, that is equal to 10 centimeter, half of the complete distance. Okay. Now, this is what up to this we have done in the previous slide. We need to find the electric field at point O because of the charge present at A and the electric field at point O because of the charge present at B, and then we need to find the resultant of those two electric fields. So that the two, in order to find the net electric field at point O. We know the formula for the electric field. The formula for the electric field is KQ upon R square. Okay, two participants have raised hands, so let me answer them first. Okay, since you have asked me to explain it again, let me explain it to you again. We are having two charges, A and B, and A and B, they are placed at we are at A plus 3 microcoulomb is placed and at B minus 3 microcoulomb is placed, and the distance between A and B is 20 centimeter. So this is the distance between A and B, 20 centimeter. O is the midpoint. Since AB equal to 20 centimeter, AO has to be equal to OB equal to 10 centimeter. The question says that we need to find the net electric field at point O. So electric field at point O will be because of the charge present at A and another because of the charge present at B, and then we need to add them according to the laws of the vector. All right. So let's do it. In the next slide, what I have done is that I have just copied these two things which I have found out, and then I'll be moving ahead. So please don't think that in the next slide I'm moving towards the next question. Just these information that we have derived and retrieved from this question, I'm just using it to solve it out. Okay. So this is what we have written in the previous slide, that two charges are there and the distance between them is 20 centimeter. O is the midpoint, AO equal to OB equal to 10 centimeter. Now we need to find the electric field at point O because of the charge present at A. So we know the formula for the electric field is KQ upon R square. So because of one charge Q, the electric field at a distance R is given by the formula KQ upon R square. We know this. So electric field at point O caused by plus 3 microcoulomb charge. So at point O, because of this plus 3 microcoulomb charge, some electric field is there, and that can be obtained by this formula EOA, that electric field at O due to charge present at A, that is KQA upon OA square. KQA upon OA square, and the direction of this electric field is along OB. Why so? Because it's a positive charge, and from the positive charge, the electric field is always pointing outwards. It is going in this direction, like from A to B. All right. So from O to B, it will be going away from this point. That's why I've written along OB. All right. Similarly, the electric field at point O caused by minus 3 microcoulomb charge. So this minus 3 microcoulomb charge is also making some electric field over here, and that electric field will be EOB. It has to be EOB. Please make it EOB. So it is EOB, that is KQB upon OB square, because the distance between this point O and the charge present at B is OB. And it is also along OB. Why so? Because this is a negative charge, and from the negative charge, the electric field will always be directed towards the negative charge. So both the electric fields, they are along OB. They are moving along this direction only. You can see the direction for the electric field in both the cases is this, from O to B. In both the cases, the electric field is moving in the same direction. All right. So just add them up. The net electric field at point O is the sum of these two electric fields because they are acting in the same direction. both the electric fields, they are along the same direction. So we can add them up. So the net electric field at point O is electric field at O due to charge present at A plus electric field at O due to charge present at B. So just add them up. It becomes KQA upon OA square plus KQB upon OB square. All right. We know the value of QA is 3 microcoulomb. Value of QB is also 3 microcoulomb. The minus sign only gives us the direction. So we are interested in the magnitude only. So QB and QA, they are both are same. The value of K we know 9 into 10 to the power 9, and OA is also equal to OB, that is equal to 10 centimeter. So these two terms are same. Magnitude wise, KQA upon OA square and KQB upon OB square, they are same, because QA is equal to QB in magnitude and OA is equal to OB in magnitude. So I can easily be writing it like this, twice of KQA upon OA square, because these two terms are same. So just adding x plus x gives you 2x. Similarly, KQA upon OA square plus KQA upon OA square gives you 2KQA upon OA square, because magnitude wise these two terms are same. Since the charge Q and QB are of same magnitude, in place of K, we can write 9 into 10 to the power 9. In place of QA, we can write 3 into 10 to the power minus 6. And in place of OA, I can write 10 centimeter, and we have to convert it into meter, that is 0.1 meter. 10 centimeter needed to be converted into meters. That will be equal to 0.1 meter. Okay, someone has asked some questions, so let me. Sir, EOA is along OA. No, it is along OB. Why so? Because it's a positive charge. So since it is positive charge, at this point, the electric field lines will be away from the positive charge. That's why it is along OB only. Okay, Hitesh? It is along OB. Why so? Because from the positive charge, electric field lines are away from the positive charge, and because of the negative charge, the electric field lines are towards the negative charge. All right. So they will be moving in this direction. All right. I do hope that it is clear. That's why both the electric fields are in same direction, and we need to add them up like this. In place of K, put 9 into 10 to the power 9. In place of QA, put 3 into 10 to the power minus 6. And in place of OA, we need to write 10 centimeter, and that is equal to 0.1 meter. This 10 centimeter is equal to 0.1 meter. When you solve it out, so this was the expression that I've got. 2 multiplied by 9 into 10 to the power 9 multiplied by 3 into 10 to the power minus 6 divided by 0.1 square. And when you further solve it out, so this was the previous expression. In this slide, I have just written it again. When you solve it out, you will be getting 5.4 multiplied by 10 to the power 6 Newton per Coulomb along OB. The direction of the net electric field is along in this direction only. Why so? Because both the electric fields are acting along OB. So when you add them up, the resultant will be along OB only. So it is the net electric field at point O, that is 5.4 into 10 to the power 6 Newton per Coulomb. All right. So this is the electric field at point O. Now let's try to solve the part B. So in part B, what was asked to us? Let's see. So this was the part B. If a negative test charge of magnitude 1.5 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 9 Coulomb is placed at point O, what is the force experienced by this test charge? So what they are saying is, at this O point, we have placed a charge, negative charge of 1.5 into 10 to the power minus 9 Coulomb. We need to find the force experienced by that charge. All right. So let's solve part B. A test charge, the amount of test charge is 1.5 into 10 to the power minus 9 Coulomb, and it is placed at the midpoint O. Q is equal to this thing. And we know that if we know the electric field at some point, the force on a charge placed at that point can be calculated by the formula F equal to Q into E. If we know the electric field at some point, then the force experienced by the charge placed at that point can be calculated by the formula F is equal to Q into E. So the value of this charge Q is 1.5 into 10 to the power minus 9 Coulomb. And the value of E at point O, we have just found out in our previous part. that is 5.4 into 10 to the power 6 Newton per Coulomb. So just put the values. When we put up the values, force becomes equal to Q. The value of Q is 1.5 into 10 to the power minus 9. This is the charge that we have placed at point O. And the electric field at point O was 5.4 into 10 to the power 6. So this is what we have obtained in our previous part. So we have used that value. The value of E was this much, 5.4 into 10 to the power 6. At point O, E was 5.4 into 10 to the power 6. When you solve it out, you will be getting 8.1 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 3 Newton. All right. So I want this thing that please tell me what is the direction of this force. What is the direction of the force on the charge placed at O? It's a negative charge. All right. So just tell me this thing, because in the question they are saying it's a negative charge that is placed at point O. I want you to tell me the direction of the force on this charge. This is the magnitude that we have obtained. That is 8.1 to 10 to the power minus 3. I'm waiting for your responses. Please respond in the chat box. The direction of this force, because it's a negative charge, it will be OA. I've explained it to you that why it is OA, because this charge, negative charge, will be attracted towards the charge present at A, and it will be repelled by the charge present at B. Let's move towards the next problem. So in the next problem, what it says is that a system has two charges, QA and QB. They both are having magnitude 2.5 into 10 to the power minus 7 Coulomb, but QB is of negative sign. It's a negative charge, and they are located at points 0, 0, minus 15 and 0, 0, plus 15 respectively. What are the total charge and the electric dipole moment of the system? All right. So two charges are there, and since they are equal and opposite charges, they construct an electric dipole. We need to calculate the total charge of the system as well as the electric dipole moment of the system. So let's solve it out. The situation can be represented by this figure. You can see that at point A, one charge is present, that is 2.5 into 10 to the power minus 7 Coulomb. And at point B, one charge is present, that is minus 2.5 into 10 to the power minus 7 Coulomb. We need to find the total charge of the system. Since these two charges are equal and opposite, so the total charge is the sum of these two charges. And since they are equal and opposite, the total charge of the system is 0. We also know this thing, that the total charge of a dipole is 0, because in dipole, equal and opposite charges are separated by a small distance. So QA plus QB, it is equal to 0. Since they are equal and opposite, the first part is completed over here. And then we need to find the electric dipole moment of the system. So the electric dipole moment, what it says is, electric dipole moment is what? Product of one of the charges and the distance between the charges. All right. So the distance between point A and B is 30 centimeters, because it is 15 from this origin, it is 15, and from this origin A is also at minus 15. So the distance between A and B is 15 plus 15, that is equal to 30 centimeters. You can see it from the figure, and that is equal to 0.3 meters. We know the dipole moment of a system is product of one of the charges multiplied by the distance between them. So the dipole moment P is given as QA multiplied by D. All right. In place of D, I can put 0.3. In place of QA, I can put 2.5 into 10 to the power minus 7. So it comes out to be like this: 7.5 into 10 to the power minus 8 Coulomb meter. And what is the direction? The direction is from the negative charge towards the positive charge. So from B to A, that is towards the negative z-axis. Negative z-axis is something that is going inside the plane of the paper. The direction of dipole moment is from negative charge towards the positive charge, and the direction of electric field is from positive charge towards the negative charge. So this is what the answer is: 7.5 into 10 to the power minus 8 Coulomb meter. The direction is along the negative z-axis because it is from B towards A. So it will go inside the plane of the paper, the direction of the electric dipole movement, always from negative charge towards the positive charge. Okay, let's move towards the next problem. It says an electric dipole with dipole moment 4 into 10 to the power minus 9 coulomb meter is aligned at an angle 30 degree with the direction of a uniform electric field which has a magnitude 5 into 10 to the power 4 Newton per coulomb. Calculate the magnitude of the torque acting on the dipole. So they are saying that a dipole is there and you are given the dipole moment, the magnitude of the electric field, and I've told you this thing that whenever a dipole is placed in an electric field, it will experience a torque. We have done that derivation that whenever a dipole is placed in a uniform electric field, it will experience a torque. So let's solve it out. Electric dipole moment, value of electric dipole moment, that is P, it is given as 4 into 10 to the power minus 9 coulomb meter. And the angle made up by the dipole moment with the uniform electric field is 30 degree. It means theta is equal to 30 degree. And the magnitude of electric field is 5 into 10 to the power 4 Newton per coulomb. So we know all these things. We know the formula for the torque. The torque acting on a dipole is given by the relation tau equal to Pe sin theta. We have derived it. P cross E. The cross product of dipole moment and the electric field vector gives you the torque acting on the dipole when it is placed in a uniform electric field. We have derived it. So tau equal to Pe sin theta. In place of P, put this value 4 into 10 to the power minus 9. In place of E, put this value 5 into 10 to the power 4 Newton per coulomb and sin 30. So the equation becomes like this. Tau equal to 4 into 10 to the power minus 9 multiplied by 5 into 10 to the power 4 multiplied by sin 30, and sin 30 is 0.5, that is half. Sin 30 is half. So in place of sin 30, I'll be replacing it with half. Equation becomes like this. 4 into 5 is 20, and when you solve 10 to the power minus 5 with 10 to the power 4, it is 10 to the power minus 9 with 10 to the power 4, it becomes 10 to the power minus 5. And in place of sin 30, I have written 0.5, that is your half. Solve it out, you will be getting 10 to the power minus 4 Newton meter. The unit of torque is Newton meter, force multiplied by the perpendicular distance between the line of action of the forces. So that's why it is Newton meter. Very simple problems are there. You can easily be solving these things out. I hope it is clear. Still, if you are having some problem, you can ask me a doubt. Problem number 11, 12, and 13, I'll leave it to you to solve it on your own. And still, if you are having some problem, you can be contacting me on emails or on phone so that I'll be solving it for you. I'll be giving you the solutions, no problem about that. Let's see this thing. Question number 1.14. It shows that there are 3 charged particles in a uniform electrostatic field. Give the signs of these 3 charges. So charge 1, 2, and 3 are there. We need to find their signs. So we can see that it's an electric field. This is the positive side of the electric field. It is the negative side of the electric field, and these charges are traveling through the electric field. So what happens? The charges which are moving towards the positive side, naturally they will be the negative charges, and the charges which are moving towards the negative side of the electric field, they are the positive charge. So 1 and 2 are the signs of charge 1 and 2 will be negative, and sign of charge 3 will be positive. So this is the explanation. I have written it. Opposite charges attract each other and the same charges repel each other. So we can see this thing. 1 and 2, they are being attracted towards the positive side of the plate, and 3 is attracted towards the negative side of the plate. That's why 1 and 2 are negatively charged and 3 is positively charged. This is very simple part. Let's discuss the second one. Which particle has the highest charge to mass ratio? This is really very important. This part is really important. Which particle has the highest charges to mass ratio? So let's solve part B of it. See, more the charge, more will be the deflection. All right. If a body is heavily charged, then it will be attracted or deflected by the electric field. If someone is not getting my voice, there may be a problem with their internet connection. Others are getting it. So please mark this thing, that more the charge, more be the deflection in the electric field. All right, because if a body is heavily charged, then naturally it will be deflected more, and less the mass, more be the deflection. Why so? Because lighter particles, they are more tend to deflect. Heavier particles, they will go along the momentum. They will go along with their momentum, but the lighter particles, they will move towards the field. So less the mass, more be the deflection. All right. So the charges to mass ratio is Q upon M. What is charges to mass ratio? It is Q upon M. Charges to mass ratio. Ratio is what? Q by M. All right. So this Q by M, when Q is more, the deflection is more. When M is less, the deflection is more. So you can see which particle is having more deflection. The particle 3 is having the highest deflection. All right. It is deflected very severely. So very steep deflection in particle 3. So the highest value of charges to mass ratio is for particle 3. All right. So the charges to mass ratio is directly proportional to the displacement or the amount of deflection for a given velocity. Since the deflection of particle 3 is the maximum, it has the highest charges to mass ratio. All right. So charges to mass ratio is directly proportional to the deflection. Because more is the charge, more is the deflection, and less is the mass, more is the deflection. That's why charges to mass ratio is directly proportional to the deflection. We can see particle 3 is having highest deflection, and that's why it is having highest charges to mass ratio. All right. Now let's discuss problem 1.15. Let's discuss it out. Problem 1.15, it says that a uniform electric field E is equal to 3 into 10 to the power 3 I cap Newton per Coulomb. I cap means that it is acting along the x-axis. I cap means this thing, that this field is acting along the x-axis. We need to find the flux of this field through a square of side 10 centimeter whose plane is parallel to the YZ plane. So we need to draw it out. Otherwise, we won't be able to solve it out. So let's solve. These are the quantities that are given to us. Electric field is equal to 3 into 10 to the power 3 I cap. The magnitude of electric field is 3 into 10 to the power 3 only. I cap suggests that it is acting along the x direction. And the side of the square is 10 centimeter. When we convert it into meter, it becomes 0.1 meter. And area of the square, it is side square, it comes out 0.01 meter square. Side multiplied by side, 0.1 multiplied by 0.1, it becomes 0.01 meter square. All right. Let's draw the diagram first and try to see the situation. So this is our situation. Electric field is acting along the x-axis. You can see it. This x-axis in marked in blue color, it is your electric field. And this is our plane. It is parallel to the YZ plane. Okay. If some plane is parallel to YZ plane, it means its one side is parallel to the y-axis and other side is parallel to the z-axis. So this is our plane. All right. So this side is parallel to the z-axis going inside, z-axis is going inside, and this side is parallel to the y-axis. We need to find the area vector. So small area vector is always perpendicular to the plane. So it will be coming out from this plane along the x-axis. The angle between the small area vector ds and x-axis is 0 degree. Why so? Because the area vector is always perpendicular to the plane, and our plane is parallel to YZ plane. It means one side is parallel to y-axis and other side is parallel to z-axis. So this is y-axis parallel to y-axis and other side is parallel to z-axis. Angle between the electric field and the area vector is 0. You can see marked with yellow color is your area vector and marked with blue color is your electric field. They are both acting along the same line. Let's solve it. Okay. This is the explanation of this figure that I have given. The area, the theta between the area vector as well and the electric field is 0 degree. All right. We know this thing, flux is equal to integration of E dot ds. We know it very well that the total flux linked with the surface is given by integration of E dot ds. And when we solve the dot product, it becomes E ds cos theta. Electric field is uniform. It is having a value 3 into 10 to the power 3. Cos theta, the angle between E and ds is also uniform. So we can take it out of the integration. And we are left with only integration ds. And integration of ds is the total integration of this surface, that is capital A. All right. So the formula for flux becomes phi is equal to Ea cos theta. From this, we have derived this Ea cos theta. Why so? Because the integration of small area vector ds is the total area of this plane surface. And the total area of this plane surface, we have calculated it as A equal to 0.01 meter square. We know the value of E, that is 3 into 10 to the power 3. We know the value of A, that is 0.01 meter square. And we know the value of cos theta. Cos theta is 0. So cos 0 is 1. So it can be written as like this. In place of E, write this, the value of electric field. In place of A, write the value of area. In place of theta, write the value of the angle between electric field and area vector, and it is 0 degrees. So cos 0 is 1. When you solve it out, you are left with 30 Newton meter square per coulomb. So this is the flux that is passing through the surface. Okay. If you are having some doubts, please ask. Let's move towards part B of this problem. So it says that what is the flux through the same square if the normal to its plane makes an angle 60 degree with the x-axis. So if you tilt this plane, now they are saying that we have tilted this plane in such a way that the area vector, that is the perpendicular to this surface, and the electric field, they are making an angle 60 degree. Okay, so let's see it. Part B, the plane makes an angle 60 degree with the x-axis. So like this, it is the scenario now. So now you have tilted this plane in such a way that the area vector, it is making an angle 60 degree with the electric field. All right. So now the angle between ds and E is 60 degree. The normal to this plane is making an angle 60 degree with the x-axis. Electric field is along the x-axis, and the normal to the plane, that along which the area vector is acting. All right, they are making an angle 60 degree now. So in place of theta, you will be putting 60 degree now. So put 60 degree in place of this. Cos 60 is half. So in place of cos 60, you can easily be writing this thing. All right. And it becomes 15 Newton meter square per coulomb. For the second case, it says that what if the angle between the normal to the plane and the x-axis is 60 degree. So if it is 60 degree, the scenario is like this. I hope it is clear. Such type of problems can only be solved if you visualize it and draw a proper figure. Otherwise, you won't be able to solve it out. Okay, let's move towards the next part. Okay, we have solved both the parts. Let's move towards the next problem, that is 1.16. What it says, what is the net flux because of a uniform electric field given in exercise 1.15, that is the value of is same, 3 into 10 to the power 3, through a cube of side 20 centimeter oriented such that its faces are parallel to the coordinate plane. See, this is a cube that is placed in this electric field. We need to find the flux through this cube. So please remember this thing, that this electric field is uniform. It is not depending on some distance. One question we have done in that we have seen this thing, that the electric field was depending on the distance. One problem example, I have solved it in some lecture. All right. So in that, the electric field was depending on the distance, and that's why the flux was there. But in this case, the electric field is uniform. So all the number of electric field lines that are entering this surface will be coming out from this surface. So the net electric flux will be 0. Only two surfaces, from two surfaces, let me mark those two surfaces. Let me mark it. See, this is my surface 1. All right. And this is my surface 2. from these two surfaces only, this one and this one, electric field is coming and going out. Other surfaces have no impact of electric field on them. Why so? Because the area vector to them is 90 degree. So from these two surfaces, see the front and the back surface of this, area vector is coming out, electric field is going in this direction, angle between them is 90 degree, flux is 0. Similar is the case with the bottom surface and the top surface. Electric field is coming in this direction, area vector is in upward direction. From the bottom surface, the area vector is in downward direction. So the angle between the electric field and the surface is 90 degree, cos 90 is 0, the flux is 0. There only remains two surfaces from which we need to find the electric flux, and that is EA cos theta, cos 0 for this one. Okay, for surface 1, the area vector will be in this direction. The area vector will be like this. For surface 1, the area vector will be in this direction, and for surface 2, the area vector will be in this direction. All right. Why so? Because electric field is moving in this direction and area vector is perpendicular to the surface. That's why this area vector is making an angle 180 degree with the electric field for surface 1 and 0 degree for surface 2. Since they are equal and opposite, they get cancelled out. Okay, and that's why the total flux through this cube is 0. It is always be 0. All right or not? Still, if you are having some problem, please ask me at the end. I'll be telling you about it. All right. So since all the faces of cube are parallel to the coordinate axis, therefore the number of field lines that are entering the cube is equal to the number of field lines that are coming out of it. As a result, the net flux through the cube is 0. All right. Let's move toward the next part of the problem. That is problem number 1.17. It says that careful measurement of the electric field at the surface of black box indicates that the net outward flux through the surface of the box is this. This is the value of flux that is given to us. What is the net charge inside the box? All right. So let's solve problem A part of this problem. It says phi value is given to you as 8 into 10 to the power 3 Newton meter square per coulomb. And we need to find the net charge present in the box. By Gauss's law, we know this thing. Phi is equal to Q upon epsilon naught. We know the value of phi. We know the value of epsilon naught. That is 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12 Newton inverse coulomb square per meter square. We know this. So in order to find the value of Q, what we'll be doing, we'll be just cross multiplying it. Phi multiplied by epsilon naught is your Q. Value of epsilon naught you know. Value of phi is given in the question. You can solve it out and the value of Q becomes 0.07 microcoulomb. When you solve it out, it becomes like this, and in the scientific notation, you can write it in microcoulombs like this. Okay. Now the second part says, if the net outward flux through the surface of the box were 0, could you conclude that there were no charges present inside the box? Why or why not? All right. So they are saying that if this thing that phi is equal to 0 somehow, then can you conclude this thing that there are no charges present inside the box? No. The answer to this question is no, because it might be possible that equal and opposite charges are present inside the box. And when equal and opposite charges are present inside the box, then what happens? The net charge becomes 0 and the flux becomes 0, but still the charges are present. All right. Because this Q is the total charge present inside the box. So we can say this thing that the net flux passing through a body depends on the net charge contained in the body. If the net flux is 0, then it can be inferred, it can't be inferred that the net charge inside the body is 0. There may be a possibility that equal amount of positive and negative charges are present inside the box. So even if the flux is 0, there may be charges lying inside the box, they can be equal and opposite. All right, the value of Q net is 0, but it doesn't mean that all the charges are not present. There may be equal and opposite charges are there. Let's move towards the next problem. Next problem says that a point charge of 10 microcoulomb Okay, let me answer Nivedita first. All right. So in this part, they are telling us this thing that it is 2 microcoulomb charge at the center of the cubic Gaussian surface having 9 centimeter edge. Net electric flux we need to find. Phi net is equal to Q upon epsilon naught by Gauss's law. Value of Q is 2 microcoulomb. Epsilon naught we know 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12. When you solve it out, the flux becomes 2.26 into 10 to the power 5 Newton meter square per coulomb. The second part it says what is the, okay, no second part is there, they just want this flux only. So we can easily calculate by Gauss's law, Q upon epsilon naught. Okay. Shall I repeat the previous one? If you have not got it, please answer. So in question 1.18, just because Nisha has asked it, I'm repeating it again. In question 1.18, it says that there is a charge of 10 microcoulomb and it is lying above a surface of square. Okay. We cannot apply the Gauss's law in the case of a plane. We need to take a surface, closed surface. And for that, we have assumed this thing that this square is a part of a cube. All right. It is one of the faces of a cube. That's what we have assumed it. Now the figure shows can be considered like this, that this is our plane of interest through which we need to find the electric flux, and a charge Q is placed over here, and we have enclosed it with some Gaussian surface of in the form of cube. Since the cube is having all the faces which are of equal area, the flux through this surface has to be 1/6 of the total flux through this cube, because the cube has 6 surfaces and each the surfaces will be having same area, so same flux will be there to each of the surfaces. That's why we need to find the total flux through this cube and then divide it by 6. So by Gauss's law, the total flux can be considered as Q upon epsilon naught, and when you divide it by 6, you'll be getting the flux through the desired square. All right. So just do it. Phi total upon 6. Okay. Phi total is Q upon epsilon naught by the Gauss's law and divided by 6. The value of Q is 10 microcoulomb. Epsilon naught, you know, it is 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12. When you solve it out, it comes out to be 1.88 into 10 to the power 5 Newton meter square per coulomb. So this is the flux through this square, which is marked in blue color. Through the cube, it is Q upon epsilon naught. So total flux divided by 6, that is the flux through one of the faces of the cube. All right, Nisha? I hope it is clear. Now let us discuss question 1.20. In question 1.20, it says that there is a point charge which causes an electric flux of minus 1.0 into 10 to the power 3 Newton meter square per coulomb to pass through a spherical Gaussian surface of 10 centimeter radius centered on the charge. So the charge is present at the center of a spherical surface. So this is our charge. It is present at the center of a spherical surface. And because of this charge, there is an electric flux of 1 into 10 to the power 3 Newton meter square per coulomb. And the flux is negative. It means the electric field lines are coming towards it. All right. It is negative flux. It means this charge is negative. And because of this negative charge, electric field lines are coming towards it. The radius of this Gaussian surface is 10 centimeter. Okay. They say if the radius of the Gaussian surface were doubled, how much flux would pass through the surface? What they are saying is this. Now they are doubling it up like this. Let me draw for you. So earlier the case was this. The Gaussian surface is given to you. But now what they are doing is they are doubling it up. So now the Gaussian surface is like this. Big larger circle. Like this. Since this Gaussian surface is doubled in radius, it has any something to do with the charge? The charge remains the Gaussian surface same. So no change in the charge that is enclosed by the Gaussian surface. The flux is given by Q upon epsilon naught. Q remains same, epsilon naught remains same. So the flux, even if the radius is increased, it remains same because the flux do not depend on the dimensions of the Gaussian surface, rather it depends on the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface, which remains the same. So even if you are doubling the radius, the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface remains the same, and that's why the flux passing through it remains the same. So it will not change at all. All right. So the electric flux is this much, radius is this much. Electric flux coming out through the surface depends on the net charge enclosed by the body. It does not depend on the size of the body. So if the radius of the Gaussian surface is doubled, then the flux passing through the surface remains the same, and it is minus 10 to the power 3 Newton meter square per coulomb. Why I have written minus 10 to the power 3? Because it is minus 1.0, 1 multiplied by something is the same value. Okay. So the dimensions of the Gaussian surface has no effect on the flux related with the Gaussian surface. It is only the charge that is enclosed by the Gaussian surface that counts. Okay. Now let's move towards the second part. What is the value of this point charge? We need to calculate the value of this point charge. So electric flux is given by the relation phi equal to q upon epsilon naught. So we need to find this q. Q is equal to phi into epsilon naught. It is phi multiplied by epsilon naught. Value of phi is 10 to the power 3. Epsilon naught, you know, 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12. So it becomes like this, minus 8.854 into 10 to the power minus 9 coulomb. All right. So this is my charge. Please put a minus over here. It is minus. Okay. Please put a minus. Let me put a minus over here. Now it is clear. So Q is equal to minus 8.854 nanocoulomb. All right. Just multiply phi with the epsilon naught. Phi is given to you, that is 10 to the power 3 with a negative sign. I hope this question is very much clear. Let us move towards the next question, question number 21. It says a conducting sphere of radius 10 centimeter has an unknown charge. If the electric field 20 centimeter from the center of the sphere is 1.5 into 10 to the power 3 Newton per coulomb, and it points radially inwards, what is the net charge present on the sphere? So we are given with a sphere of radius 10 centimeter, and at a point P, which lies at a distance 20 centimeter from it, the electric field is 1.5 into 10 to the power 3 Newton per coulomb. We need to find the charge Q, okay, present on this sphere. So let's solve it out. The electric field at a distance E from a sphere containing charge Q is given by this relation, kq upon r square, 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r square. We have done it with the case of sphere, thin spherical charged sphere, the Gauss's law, third application of the Gauss's law, we have done it. The electric field at a distance r is given by 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r square, where r is the distance from the center of the sphere at which we need to find the electric field. Here we need to find the value of q, just cross multiply it. So q is the net charge, electric field value is given to us, q value you need to find. Distance r is 0.2 meter. We need to find q, just cross multiply it. Q becomes 4 pi epsilon naught into r square multiplied by E. Okay. The question over here is that what is the value of 4 pi epsilon naught? We know 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 to the power 9. So 4 pi epsilon naught is 1 upon 9 into 10 to the power 9. All right. So from this, we can be writing it like this, r square E upon k, because this 4 pi epsilon naught can be written as 1 by k. Why so? Let me tell you that why I have written it like this. See, k is equal to what? 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. All right. So it's not possible for me to write epsilon, so I'm writing E. So k equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. All right. So the value of 4 pi epsilon naught is what? It will be 1 by k. So in place of 4 pi epsilon naught, I have written 1 by k. All right. All right or not? So that's why I have written this k. R square value I know 0.2 square, E value I know 1.5 into 10 to the power 3. In place of K, I can write 9 into 10 to the power 9. So I can be solving it like this. R square is 0.2 square, E is 1.5 into 10 to the power 3, and the value of K is 9 into 10 to the power 9. I know this. 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is K. All right. So in place of K, I can be writing 9 into 10 to the power 9. And the value becomes for Q is 6.67 into 10 to the power minus 9, and it is 6.67 into 10 to the power into 6.67 nanocoulomb, not into. It is just 6.67 nanocoulomb. Please make it 6.67 nanocoulomb, like this. 6.67 nanocoulomb. The sign of this charge has to be negative. Why so? Because the electric field is pointing in the inward direction. So you will be saying the field is inward, hence Q is negative. If the field is outward, the Q has to be positive. So this is the total charge that is present on this sphere. I hope it is clear. All right. Then moving towards the next question. Question number 22. A uniformly charged conducting sphere of diameter 2.4 meter has a surface charge density 80 microcoulomb per meter square. It is the value of sigma. This is the value of sigma, that is Q by A. All right. Surface charge density. What we need to find in this one? Okay, I have not written the question. Let me see. Or you just go through your notebook and try to get it out. It is 1.22. What needed to be found? It Q. We need to find the total charge present on the conducting sphere. All right. We need to find the total charge present on the conducting sphere. That is Q needed to be determined in this question. So let's do this. The diameter of the sphere is 2.4 meter, and the radius will be half of it, 1.2 meter. R equal to D by 2. Surface charge density sigma is given as 80 microcoulomb per meter square. So in place of micro, I should be writing 10 to the power minus 6. So it is 80 into 10 to the power minus 6 coulomb per meter square. The total charge on the surface of the sphere is Q equal to sigma into A. All right. Because sigma equal to Q upon A. That's why Q equal to charge density sigma into A. And what is the surface area of a sphere? It is 4 pi r square. Surface area of square is 4 pi r square. All right. So Q becomes sigma into 4 pi r square. Value of sigma you know 80 into 10 to the power minus 6. 4 you know, pi is 3.14, and r you know it is 1.2 meter, half of the diameter. Solving it up, in place of sigma I have written 80 into 10 to the power minus 6. It is given in the question. In place of pi I have written 3.14. In place of r I have written 1.2 square. So it becomes 1.447 into 10 to the power minus 3 coulomb. All right. Now the second part. In the second part, I need to find the total flux associated and linked through this sphere. So we know the total flux is given by Q upon epsilon naught. All right. And since this charge is positive, the flux will be leaving the surface of the sphere. If it is negative, then it will be coming towards it. So since the charge is positive, the total electric flux is leaving the surface of the sphere, and it becomes, from the Gauss's law, phi total equal to Q upon epsilon naught. Value of Q we have obtained in our previous part. It is 1.447 into 10 to the power minus 3. Divide it with epsilon naught. When you divide it with epsilon naught, you will be getting this value. 1.63 into 10 to the power 8 Newton Coulomb inverse meter square. All right. So this is the total flux linked with this sphere. What we have done, we have used the concept of surface charge density to calculate the charge associated with the sphere, and then we have used the Gauss's law to find the total flux linked with the sphere. Phi equal to Q upon epsilon naught. We'll be easily solving it out. Question number 23. Let's move towards question number 23. It says an infinite line charge produces a field of this much, 9 into 10 to the power 4 Newton per coulomb, at a distance 2 centimeters from it. Calculate the linear charge density. So you need to find the value of lambda. So this is the first application of the Gauss law that we have done. So the electric field by the infinite line charge at a distance r having linear charge density lambda is given by the relation equal to lambda upon 2 pi epsilon naught r. So this is the first application of the Gauss law that we have done, that the electric field due to a linearly charged infinite wire at a distance r from it is given by equal to lambda upon 2 pi epsilon naught r. Okay, let me take the question. So E equal to lambda upon 2 pi epsilon naught r. The value of lambda we need to find. So lambda becomes E multiplied by 2 pi epsilon naught into r. All right. So r is your distance, 2 centimeter they have given. So convert it into meter, 0.02 meter. E value, the value of electric field is 9 into 10 to the power 4 Newton per Coulomb is given in the question. And we need to use 1 upon 2 pi epsilon naught. See, we need to use 1 upon 2 pi epsilon naught over here. So 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is the K. We know this thing, 9 into 10 to the power 9. Multiply both sides with 2. So when you multiply both sides with 2, the left hand side becomes 1 upon 2 pi epsilon naught and the right hand side becomes 2 into 9 into 10 to the power 9. So we will be using this value in this question. See again, 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is the value of K, that is 9 into 10 to the power 9. In this question, we need to use the value of 1 upon 2 pi epsilon naught. So what I do, I will be multiplying it with 2 both the sides. So left hand side becomes 1 upon 2 pi epsilon naught, 2 into 9 into 10 to the power 9. So that I'll be using. Value of lambda becomes E multiplied by 2 pi epsilon naught into R. In place of E, I can write 9 into 10 to the power 4. In place of 2 pi epsilon naught, I can write 1 upon 2 into 9 into 10 to the power 9. See, 2 pi epsilon naught goes to this side. So 1 upon 2 into 9 into 10 to the power 9 becomes 2 pi epsilon naught. The value of 2 pi epsilon naught is 1 upon 2 multiplied by 9 multiplied by 10 to the power 9. So in place of this 2 pi epsilon naught, I will be using 1 upon 2 multiplied by 9 multiplied by 10 to the power 9. So E is 9 into 10 to the power 4, R is 0.02, and value of 2 pi epsilon naught is 1 upon 2 into 9 into 10 to the power 9. When you solve it out, this 9 gets cancelled out with this 9, and this 2 gets cancelled out with this 2. So you are left with 10 microcoulomb per meter. So this is the linear charge density of this infinite line charge, which has a field 9 into 10 to the power 4 Newton per Coulomb at a distance 2 centimeters from it. I am telling you again, the value of 2 pi epsilon naught is 1 upon 2 multiplied by 9 multiplied by 10 to the power 9. Just cross multiply it. When you cross multiply it, 2 pi epsilon naught becomes 1 upon 2 multiplied by 9 multiplied by 10 to the power 9. Solve it out, it becomes this. Last question for today. Question number 24. It says that two large thin metal plates which are parallel and close to each other, and their inner surfaces have the charge densities of opposite sign. It means they are equal in magnitude, sigma and minus sigma. This is the third case that we have discussed for the second application. Two parallel, equal and opposite charge sheets. We need to find the electric field in 3 different regions. So let's do it. So situation can be represented like this. Okay. So A, it is having plus sigma, and B, it is having minus sigma. And the value of this sigma is, magnitude is 17 into 10 to the power minus 22 Coulomb per meter square. We need to find the electric field in A and B part in the outer region of the first plane, and in B part in the outer region of the second plane. Then like region 1 and region 3 is A and B part. So they see this thing, the electric field because of plus sigma, that is because of sheet A, it is away from it like this. So this is the direction of the electric field, and in this direction it is away from it. This is your E1. The electric field because of minus sigma, it will be going towards it. It will be like this. And from this side, it will be going towards this, like this. All right. So in region 1, we are having two equal and opposite electric fields, which are cancelling each other. Similarly, in region 3, we are having two equal and opposite electric fields. One is in this side, one is in this side. The value is sigma upon 2 epsilon naught, and their magnitude is same because sigma is same for both of them. So they cancel each other, and the electric field becomes 0. In region 1 and 3, the electric field E is 0. This is because the electric fields due to both the plates are equal and opposite in these regions, and they cancel out each other. All right. And in region 2, the electric field because of sheet A is in this direction, and because of sheet B is also in the same direction. And that's why in region 2, both the electric fields, they add up each other, and the situation becomes like this. You can see it in region 2. You can calculate the electric field as sigma upon 2 epsilon naught plus sigma upon 2 epsilon naught. Why so? Because they are acting in the same direction in region 2. In region 1 and 3, they are acting in the opposite direction. Because of an infinitely charged plane sheet, the electric field is sigma upon 2 epsilon naught, second application of the Gauss law that we have done. And since in region 2, they are acting along the same direction, we add them up, it becomes sigma upon epsilon naught. The value of sigma is 17 into 10 to the power minus 22, and epsilon naught, you know, 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12. When you solve it out, it becomes 1.92 into 10 to the power minus 10 Newton per Coulomb. So this is the electric field in region 2. In region 1 and 3, it is 0. Why so? Because two equal and opposite electric fields, they are acting in the same direction. And we know this thing that this electric field is independent of the distance. There is no term of distance involved in this one. So at any point in this region, it will be same. Similarly, for region 1 and 2, at any point it will be same. That's why we have calculated for the region. That's all for today that I want to discuss. I will be sharing this PDF to you people. Please go through these questions and also solve those questions which I have not solved in this one, because I have believed that you people can easily be solving them out. Once you are done with the questions, if you are having some problem, please mail me. I'll be there to help you out. Stay safe at your homes. Thank you very much for joining. I'll be soon coming with chapter number 2. That's on Monday. We'll be discussing and starting up chapter number 2. This chapter is completed from my side. And please try to solve as much questions as you can. And if the questions that you won't be able to solve, please mail it to me. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.